Story number 1. The Graveyard Shift. I used to work the overnight shift at a McDonald's just off the highway. You know the kind. Fluorescent lights buzzing, drive-through headset always glitching, and that constant smell of burnt fries baked into the walls. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid better than daytime hours. Most nights were quiet. A few truckers, some college kids trying to sober up, and the occasional weird customer. I didn't mind the quiet. In fact, I liked it. There was something oddly peaceful about cleaning the lobby with no one around, watching the parking lot flicker under the yellow streetlights. At least at first. I started noticing him on my second week. He always sat in the same spot, back corner, right under the security camera in the dining area. Booth number 12, gray hoodie, hands folded on the table. No food, no drink, just sitting. The first night I thought maybe he was waiting for someone. He didn't look homeless, not exactly, clean clothes, just quiet. I went to clean the table next to him and nodded, gave a casual, "Everything all right, sir?" like we were trained to say. He didn't look at me, didn't move, just kept staring at the salt shaker in front of him like it held the answer to something. I brushed it off. People are weird, especially after midnight. But then he came again. Same time, same booth, same gray hoodie, every night, and always alone. A week passed, then 2, and he never ordered anything. Not once. I even checked with the register to see if maybe he came in earlier, bought a coffee or something. Nothing. He just appeared. One night I asked my coworker Josh, who worked the fryers, "You ever see that guy leave?" Josh glanced toward the dining area and shrugged. "What guy?" "That guy in the hoodie. Back booth." He leaned over the counter to look. Booth 12 was empty. I stared at it for a long second, then laughed awkwardly. Guess he left already. Josh gave me a look but didn't press. I didn't sleep well that day. My shift ended at 6 a.m. like usual. I went home, crawled into bed, and my brain wouldn't stop looping the same thought. I never saw him leave. I started watching more closely. After every drive-through rush, I'd peek into the lobby. He was always there, motionless, never made eye contact, just sat. But every time I tried to keep my eyes on him until the end of the shift, I'd get pulled away, mop up a spill, refill the soda machine. Then, when I looked back, he was gone. It got under my skin. Not enough to say anything to my manager, but enough that I started dreading that booth. I cleaned it last, avoided looking at it when I could. The cameras became my obsession. We had a tiny monitor in the back office, constantly cycling through the feeds. One night, I waited until the lobby was empty, then rewound the footage. I wanted to catch him walking in, just once. I watched for nearly an hour's worth of footage on fast forward, cars pulling in, customers coming and going. Couple of teenagers making out in a corner booth. But booth 12, he was just there. No entrance, no movement. One frame, he wasn't there. The next, he was. I paused the tape. My fingers were cold on the desk. The next night, I watched the live feed while working. Just let it play in the corner of my eye while I wiped trays. Nothing unusual until around 2:43 a.m. when he appeared again on the monitor. I walked to the lobby. From behind the counter, I could see the back booths, empty, but on the screen, booth 12 had someone sitting in it. I took a step forward, another, slowly turned my head. Still nothing. I looked back at the monitor. He was still there. I don't really remember the rest of that night. Just a weird buzzing in my ears like a TV turned on in another room. I felt floaty, disconnected. I kept glancing at the booth, expecting it to be full. Then, empty. Then, full again, like it was playing with me. After that, I started leaving the lights off in the dining area. Told myself it was to save power, but I knew the real reason. I didn't want to see him anymore. One night, I came in and found a sticky note on the staff room door from management. Security cameras under maintenance. Footage unavailable tonight. Don't touch the monitor. Great. The shift felt heavier without the background noise of the monitor. Everything felt closer, louder. The buzz of the fridge, the hum of the soda machine. Even Josh was quieter than usual. Around 3 a.m., the fryer timer went off. I turned to press the button and noticed something in my peripheral vision. Movement, back booth. I didn't want to look. I really didn't, but I did. There he was, same hoodie, same position, but this time his head was turned, looking right at me. I froze. I didn't blink. Couldn't. His face was partly hidden by his hood, but I could see just enough. He wasn't blinking either. I took a step back, bumping into the fryer station. Josh was nowhere. I don't even remember if he was working that night. The man tilted his head slightly, just a few degrees, like he was listening. Then, slowly, he raised one hand and rested it on the table. Nothing else. I stepped into the back room and shut the door. Stayed there until sunrise. Next morning, I told my manager I needed a break. Family stuff. He barely looked up from his clipboard. I left and never went back. A few weeks later, I got curious. Called the store and asked if that McDonald's still ran overnight shifts. The manager, some new guy I didn't know, said no. They stopped 24-hour service last month. Staffing issues. He mentioned something else, though. Said someone had broken in the week before, smashed a chair against the back door. Police never found who did it. Said it looked like the guy was trying to get out, not in. I didn't ask any more questions. That was 3 years ago. I've worked a lot of places since then. Night shifts, too. But I never sit near the windows. And I always check the cameras. Sometimes, though, when I stop at a McDonald's late at night, I look in through the glass just to make sure booth 12 is empty. I haven't seen him again, but sometimes when I wake up around 3 a.m. for no reason, I feel like someone's staring at me from the corner of my room. Quiet. Still. Waiting. Story number 2. The drive-through whispers. I used to work the late shift at McDonald's, midnight to 6. Just me, a line cook named Eric, and silence thick enough to hear your own breath if you listen close. The kind of quiet that only exists after 2 a.m. When the city's asleep and everything feels like it's on pause. We kept the drive-through running through the night, mostly for cab drivers, night shift nurses, or people just craving fries at weird hours. It was slow, predictable, peaceful even, until it wasn't. Our headset system was old, one of those clunky units that always needed jiggling. Sometimes it picked up engine noises before a car even pulled up. Sometimes the mic stayed live after I thought I'd clicked it off. It had its quirks, but it started getting weird. The first time I heard it, it was around 3:10 a.m. I was standing by the soda fountain, wiping it down like I always did when things were slow. The headset crackled. I remember it clearly, Not a voice at first, just static, soft and steady, like a whisper you couldn't quite make out. I figured a car had pulled in, so I went to the screen. Nothing. No headlights in the lane. No ping. I pressed the talk button anyway. "Welcome to McDonald's. I'll be with you in just a second." Nothing. Just silence. I waited, then shrugged it off and went back to wiping. That would have been the end of it if it didn't happen again. And again. Always around the same time. Between 3 and 3:30, the static would kick in softly, sometimes followed by the faintest sound of breathing. Not heavy, not fake, real, subtle, like someone was right up close to the mic, barely exhaling. It never happened during the rush hours, just in those dead, in-between moments when I was alone at the window, humming to keep myself awake. One night I decided to test it. I was tired, but curious. I heard the static come in again, so I clicked on the mic and said, "Is someone there?" The answer came slower than I expected. A soft voice. A woman. She said, "Help, please." 3 words, whispered like a prayer. Weak. Sad. I stood up straighter. "Where are you?" No reply. I looked at the drive-through monitor. Still nothing. Just the empty lane. Dark and still. "Ma'am?" I asked again. Just static now, louder. Then it stopped altogether. I told Eric about it when he came back from his smoke break. He laughed, said I needed more sleep. It's probably the headset catching a stray signal from a radio or something. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But then it started happening more often, and the voice, it changed, not in tone. It was always quiet, fragile, but the words got personal. The next time it said my name, Tyler. Just that. A whisper stretched out like it hurt to say. I froze. Nobody. Outside. Nobody. On the mic. My chest felt tight for the rest of the shift. I didn't say anything to Eric after that. He'd just make another joke, and I didn't feel like hearing it. I stopped using your set unless I saw headlights. Even then, I kept one ear uncovered, just in case. I started noticing other things too. Little things like how the volume knob would turn itself down slightly when I wasn't looking, or how the headset battery would drain faster between 3 and 4. And the strangest thing, whenever the voice came through, the lights in the back storage area would flicker just once or twice, like a stutter in the building's breath. I told myself it was all in my head, until the night I made a mistake. It was raining. Slow night. Not a single car for nearly an hour. Then the voice came through again. "Tyler, help me. They're coming." That was new. Different. The fear in her tone felt real. Desperate. And something about "they're coming" sent a chill through my stomach. I spoke back. "Who's coming? What's happening?" A pause. Then the voice whispered, "I'm outside." I ran to the window. Nothing. Rain on the pavement. Empty parking lot. A couple of blinking streetlights in the distance. Then the motion sensor on the drive-through camera triggered. The screen blinked. Still no car. But something moved. Just barely. In the corner of the frame. A shadow, maybe. Or a figure. I couldn't tell. It was gone in the next frame. I didn't say a word the rest of the shift. I went home that morning and slept with the lights on. Didn't even bother undressing. Just curled up on top of the blankets like a kid hiding from monsters. The next night I came in early. I asked the manager, Nicole, if we had a backup recording system for the drive-through feed. She said no, but she looked concerned when I asked. Not curious, concerned. I think she knew something, but she didn't press, and neither did I. I told myself I'd quit the job. Just needed to get through the weekend. But Friday night, things got worse. It started normal. Quiet. Eric was in the back, prepping some breakfast stuff early. Then the static came again, louder than usual, hissing in my ear. I yanked the headset off. The sound kept going, through the speaker, the one outside. It was playing the static out loud. I walked to the control panel and hit mute. It didn't stop. Then I heard the whisper again. Let me in. This time it wasn't in my ear. It came from the speaker, above the drive-through window. A dry, broken whisper that somehow filled the room. I turned around slowly. The hairs on my arms were standing up. The headset was still on the counter, but the light on it blinked like it was active. Eric walked in and saw my face. Dude, what's going on? I pointed at the headset. It's her again. He laughed at first, then looked at the drive-through screen. What the hell? On the monitor, the screen showed a shape. No face, no real form. Just a vague outline. A human shape. Crouched low right beneath the speaker outside. No car, no sound. Just that shape. Then the camera feed cut to black. Eric stepped back. Okay, that's enough for me. We shut the system down early that night. I never went back. I told Nicole I was done. I didn't even give notice. Just said I couldn't do night shifts anymore. She didn't argue. I think she understood. That was 2 years ago. I still drive past that McDonald's. Sometimes. It's open 24/7, but the drive-through is closed after midnight now. A sign on the window says, technical difficulties. Please come inside. The place looks fine. Normal. Happy meals. Posters. Families, but I can't stop thinking about that voice, the way it whispered my name like it knew me, like it had always known me. And sometimes when I'm lying in bed after a long day, I swear I still hear it, just under the hum of the fan, or in the soft crackle of an old radio left on too long, asking the same question. Let me in. Story number 3. The broken freezer. The freezer at our McDonald's always ran colder than it should. Not just in the way freezers are supposed to. I mean unnaturally cold. I've worked in restaurants before, but this one, it felt different. Like the cold didn't come from the vents or the machinery. It came from the floor, from beneath. I didn't notice it at first. The first few weeks were just routine. Get in, prep, take orders, restock the freezer when needed. Nothing weird. Nothing worth remembering, but I always felt a little off in there, like I was being watched. Not by a person, more like the room itself noticed when you stepped in. And it was always quiet in there. Too quiet. Most walk-ins have a constant hum from the fan, or you hear muffled noise from the kitchen. But ours, dead silent, except for the occasional crack, like a joint popping. It echoed. I brushed it off for a long time. It was a busy location, 24-hour service, always short-staffed. I worked a lot of closing shifts, which meant I was the one restocking everything before we shut down the grills. That meant being alone in the freezer most nights, loading frozen patties, fries, apple pies into the metal racks. I'd be in there for 5-10 minutes at a time. That's when I started noticing the spot. One square on the floor, front left corner. Looked the same as the rest of the tile, but colder. Much colder. Like I'd kneel there to grab a box, and my knee would sting from the chill. I once left a half-full crate on that tile while I went to grab gloves, and when I came back, just 2 minutes later, the box was frozen to the ground. No explanation. Just ice creeping up from underneath. I asked my manager about it once. She didn't say much, just looked at me a little too long and said, "Yeah, That freezer acts up sometimes. That's all she said. Then she walked off like we weren't just talking about a tile that freezes things on contact. After that, I started avoiding the spot. Even told a couple of coworkers not to leave crates there. Some listened. Most didn't care. Then one night, Devin, new guy, maybe 19, got locked in. It was around 11:30. We were closing up and he offered to help me restock. I said sure. I was taking the trash out when it happened. Came back in and saw the freezer light still on through the window, which meant someone was inside. I opened the door. Devin came, stumbling out, pale, sweating, eyes wide. I asked if he was okay. He didn't answer right away, just kept staring back into the freezer. Then he whispered, "It knocked." I thought I misheard him. "What?" He looked at me, voice shaking. Something was knocking from under the floor. I didn't laugh. Something about the way he said it. I knew he wasn't messing around. He looked like he wanted to cry, but was too embarrassed. He quit 2 days later. Didn't give a reason. That should have been a bigger red flag than it was. But you get numb to weird things when you work night shifts. Everything blurs together. You forget what normal feels like. Then it happened to me. I was alone. We were short-staffed that week, and I had to close the kitchen myself. It was a little after midnight. I went into the freezer to grab another case of chicken patties. I stepped in. Door clicked shut behind me. Normal. I grabbed the box, turned around to leave, and the door wouldn't budge. That happens sometimes. The seal gets tight, especially with the temperature fluctuations. I've had to shoulder it open before, but this time, it didn't move at all. I pushed harder. Still nothing. I checked the emergency release handle. Still there. Still functional. But it didn't work. That's when I felt it. That cold, radiating from the tile, stronger than ever. I looked down, and the box I'd dropped just a second ago already had frost creeping up the sides. My boots started sticking. The air got heavier, not colder, just thicker, like breathing through damp cotton. And then I heard it, a soft knock. 1, 2, then silence. It didn't come from the door or the wall. It came from underneath, from the tile. I didn't move, didn't even blink. I just stood there, eyes fixed on that front left corner. The knock came again, 3 times this time. Then a dragging sound, like something pulling itself across concrete below me. I backed up, hand still on the release handle, even though I knew it wasn't working. My breath fogged up. The light flickered. Once, twice. Then I heard breathing. Not mine. It was slow, ragged, like someone struggling. It echoed off the metal shelves, coming from every direction. And the worst part, it wasn't far away. It was right behind me. I didn't turn around. I just stared at the door, praying. I don't even know for what. Then, click. The door released on its own. Just like that. I didn't question it. I pulled it open, stepped out, and slammed it shut. I didn't even tell anyone. Who would believe me? I worked 2 more weeks after that. Always during the day, I refused to close, told them I was feeling sick at night. Management didn't argue. One of the other guys, Luis, covered for me on a Friday. That night, the freezer broke. Or, that's what they told us. The story was vague. Something about electrical failure, full restock lost to spoilage. They had contractors come out, but the door was taped shut for days. Even when it was fixed, no one wanted to be in there, alone. The weird part? They replaced that front tile. Just that one. Said it was cracked underneath. No one saw a crack. After I quit, I drove by the place a few times. Nothing changed. Same lights, same menu, same routine, but I'll always remember the look on Devin's face and the sound of that knock. Software, hollow, like it wasn't done yet, like it was still waiting. Story number 4, the basement door. There was this McDonald's I worked at during college. Older building, tucked between a gas station and a laundromat, the kind of place with yellowed floor tiles and old booths that creaked when you sat down. It had this worn-out charm that made it feel like nothing ever really changed there. My shift was usually evenings into the late close, 4 p.m. to midnight, quiet after 10. Sometimes it felt like I was alone, even when I wasn't. The night crew was small, just me, a fry cook named Nina, and our supervisor Rick, who mostly stayed in the back office, staring at spreadsheets and listening to old rock on low volume. There was this one door in the back hallway near the mop sink. Metal, scuffed, no sign or label. It was always locked. I remember asking Rick once, kind of casually, "What's behind that?" He looked up from his clipboard and said, "Basement, old storage. We don't use it." That's all he said. Then he moved on to talking about the ice cream machine again. I didn't think much of it at first. Every restaurant has weird parts you just accept. Places no one touches. Things no one talks about. But over time, little things started catching my attention. The way the door handle always felt cold. Not cool. Cold. Like the freezer door after a power outage. I'd bump into it by accident while dragging the mop bucket, and every time it made me shiver a little. Sometimes at night, when I was finishing trash duty in the back hallway, I'd hear something faint behind that door. Not loud, just soft scraping, like someone dragging a box across concrete, or the low creak of wood shifting under weight. I told myself it was the pipes. Then one night, Nina was late. Rick had gone out front to fix the soda machine. I was alone, standing in the back hallway folding down some cardboard for recycling. That's when I heard it. A knock. Not loud. Just once. From the basement door. I froze. The hallway was dim. Just a flickering fluorescent above me and the hum of the walk-in fridge down the hall. I stared at the door for a while. Didn't move. Then another knock. 2, this time. Short. Measured. I slowly backed away and tossed the flattened box in the bin. When I passed Rick on my way up front, I didn't say anything. After that, I started noticing things changing. One morning, I came in and saw that the basement door had duct tape across the frame. Not fresh tape. Old, brittle stuff, like it had been there before, but someone peeled it off and tried to re-stick it. It hung loose, curling at the edges. I asked Rick again, so why don't we ever use the basement? He looked at me for a second too long, then went back to his coffee. No need. There's nothing down there. But the way he said it, like he was repeating something he'd told himself more than once. That night, Nina and I were taking out the trash. She stopped near the back hallway and said, "Do you ever hear stuff behind that door?" I looked at her. "You've heard it too?" She nodded. "Yeah, like someone's moving down there. But Rick always says it's empty." Neither of us said anything more. The next few shifts felt heavier, like the building itself was holding its breath. One night I came in a little early. Rick wasn't there yet. I was alone, in the back. I walked past the hallway and stopped. The basement door was open, just slightly, maybe an inch. The light inside wasn't on, just blackness beyond the crack. Still, quiet. Something about it felt off, like the air was thicker near it, heavier. I stood there, staring, heart thudding a little faster than it should have. Then the door creaked shut on its own. No wind, no movement, just slowly, quietly, closed. I stood frozen for a moment, then walked up front and waited until someone else arrived. Didn't go back there until Rick showed up an hour later. I asked him, point blank, "Did you open the basement earlier?" He didn't look surprised, just said, "No." Then he added, without looking at me, "Don't worry about it." I stopped asking questions after that. A week later, Rick didn't show up for his shift. No one could reach him. Manager called and said he'd been acting strange lately. Said she was going to swing by his place. I was working that night. Alone at first, around 10:30 while refilling sauces, I heard it again. 3 knocks. Then something new. A voice. Low. Muffled. Like it came from the other side of the concrete. It said, "My name." Not loud. Just once. "Jason." I stood there for a full minute. Didn't move. Didn't breathe. Then I walked to the front, grabbed my bag, and left. Didn't clock out. Didn't clean up. I quit the next morning. They called a few times to ask why. I didn't answer. And a few weeks later, I drove past the place. It was closed for renovations. Sign on the window said, "Under maintenance." I haven't gone back, but sometimes late at night, when everything's quiet, I hear a knock. And every time I remember that door, still shut, still waiting. Story number 5. The Golden Arches Light. I used to close at a McDonald's off the main highway. One of those old buildings with the classic yellow arches mounted high on a pole out front. You could see it from a mile away if you were driving in from the east. It wasn't a bad job. Boring, sure, but steady. I'd come in around 5, do prep, handle the drive-through, and help clean up before locking everything down around midnight. It was simple, routine, and I liked that. We had a small team. Me, Daryl on the grill, and Becca on front counter. The 3 of us worked well together. Most nights passed quietly, especially when it rained. Fewer cars, fewer people. It was on one of those rainy nights when I noticed something strange. I was wiping down the lobby tables, glancing out through the big front windows like I always did. The rain was coming down steady. The streets were slick and glowing under the streetlights. Everything had that hazy look, like the world outside was underwater. That's when I saw the golden arches. They flickered, not like a light going bad. It was slower. One side blinked, then the other, back and forth, almost like it was trying to say something. I tilted my head, watched it a little longer. Then it stopped. I told myself it was probably just the rain messing with the power. It was old wiring. This building had been around since the 80s, nothing to worry about. But it happened again the next night. Same time, around 11:17 p.m., almost on the dot. Blink, blink, pause, blink. I didn't say anything at first. I figured maybe I was reading into it. I was tired. You start seeing patterns when you've been staring at the same lights for too long. But then Becca noticed it too. We were closing the register, and she looked up through the front doors and said, "That sign's being weird again." I glanced up. Sure enough, it was doing it again. Blink, blink, pause. "Yeah," I said. "I've seen it do that the past couple nights." She stared at it a little longer, then shrugged. "It's almost like Morse code or something." We laughed, but there was something in her tone that didn't feel like a joke. That night, I stayed an extra few minutes after locking up. I stood near the window watching. It blinked again. But this time, it spelled something. At least I think it did. I don't know, Morse, not really. But it felt intentional, not random. The next morning, I looked up a Morse code chart online. I scribbled down what I remembered. Short blink, long pause, 2 long blinks, short. It didn't make a full word, but one sequence stood out. A name. Mine. Not the whole thing. Just the letters J-A-C, Jack. No one at the store called me Jack. Only my mom did. It felt personal in a way I couldn't explain. I didn't bring it up to anyone the next night. Just kept my head down and did my job. But I noticed myself glancing at the sign more often, watching for patterns. It kept happening. Same time, same flicker. And it wasn't just me seeing it. One night, Daryl came out from the kitchen, drying his hands, and caught me staring through the window. He stood beside me and watched the sign blink a few times. He didn't say anything. Just cleared his throat and walked back to the Friars. That night, I couldn't sleep. It wasn't just the lights anymore. It was a feeling, like someone was thinking about me, not watching exactly, just focused, as if I was being drawn into something without realizing it. The next shift, Becca didn't show up. No call, no message, nothing. Manager said she hadn't been answering her phone all day. It was weird, but not unheard of. People ghost jobs all the time. Still, something didn't sit right, especially when the sign flickered again that night. Long, short, long. It was slower, clearer, and I swear, it spelled out her name, B-E-C. I didn't write it down. I didn't need to. The next morning, I checked social media. Her account was gone. Not just inactive, deleted, wiped clean, like she was never there. I didn't know what to do or who to tell. You can't exactly walk into work and say, "Hey, I think the McDonald's sign is sending messages and making people disappear." So I kept my mouth shut. The next few nights were quiet, just me and Daryl, barely talking. We both knew something felt off. Neither of us wanted to say it out loud. Then, one night, the lights didn't blink at 11:17. I should have felt relieved, but instead, I felt anxious. It was too quiet. That night I stayed behind again, sat in the booth closest to the window, just staring at the sign. At 11:34 it blinked once, then again, then it paused and started again. I grabbed my notebook. I tried to copy it. J-A-C-K, then a new set of letters. I couldn't quite place them. They didn't spell anything clear. But the last one was a D. I glanced toward the back kitchen. Daryl wasn't there. I checked the stockroom, the freezer, even outside in the lot. Gone. No sound, no call, just gone. I stood in the middle of the lobby, cold air blowing through the vents, staring up at the glowing M outside. It flickered once more, then stopped. Permanently. The next day, the sign was turned off. Corporate said it had a wiring issue. Electricians came out and shut it down until further notice, but by then Daryl's name was gone from the schedule, and no one asked about him. No one asked about Becca either, like they were never there. I quit a week later. No notice, no explanation. I don't even eat at McDonald's anymore, but sometimes when I drive past that old store, late at night, I look at the sign. It's still dark, but every now and then, I think I see a flicker in the corner of my eye. Just one, maybe two. And for a second, it feels like it's spelling something again. Something only I'm supposed to see. If that story gave you chills, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more quiet, unsettling horror stories just like this. Also, check out the other creepy videos appearing on your screen right now. You don't want to miss them. And if you've ever experienced something strange or unexplainable, share your story in the comments below. I'd love to read it. Stay safe out there.